This country is my home and I've grown to love it. Of standing stones and monuments of old, you can feel the breath the ancestors are breathing in the ancient tales and the legends that are told. I can feel the air in the seasons that are changing, and the patient land colors with a wheel. I know the years have passed and that I'm aging. In acceptance of change lies a calmness that I feel. The soul of the land is sleeping, waiting for us to make that choice. If you care to know your own soul is weakened, to become one with the land that's to rejoice. I can feel the air in the seasons that are changing, and the patient land colors with the wheel. Humankind's conscience needs rearranging. The answer is stop and become still. This country is my home and I've grown to love it. Listen to your ancestors of old. Be still and you will find the answers in the stories and the legends that they've told.
Hello and good evening. Good evening, my darlings. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another BS Talks. I'm your host, Banksy Style, and some of you may know me as Hafiz Reflects from the other channel. Tonight, we have not an impromptu interview. It was kind of arranged on Sunday. It's just I am lazy and forgetful, and I forgot to set up a stream ahead of time to warn everyone that this is coming. But it is. Tonight we're speaking to a gentleman I met at Speaker's Corner who happens to be a incredibly proficient and well-qualified philosopher in various universities. He has degrees. Anyway, long story short, please help me welcome Oliver. Hello, Mr. Oliver. All right. Okay. Oliver, unmute thyself, sir. Okay. Actually, oh my God, you missed all of that. I was introducing you to the audience. Unfortunately, I was muted, so you can hear any of my wonderful introduction. I totally bigged you up. Yes, we have Oliver. Gave you the most astounding introduction ever. Hello, everyone in the chat. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Oliver, for coming to the show. Some would call it an S show. So the rest of us would think of it as a one man band trying to keep it together. So, Oliver, could you please start with a small introduction of yourself and your credentials as your as pertaining to your philosophy and studies and where you are now and wonderful Japanese motif. Is that actually a background or is that just actually your place? I never even asked because that looks awesome. Oh wow! So you actually live in like the Japanese aesthetics because it looks amazing behind you. All right, go for it.
Well, I love that you called me a philosopher. I really am very flattered by that. I do only have one undergraduate degree in philosophy. The others are all in sort of architecture and design and art and that kind of thing.
Well, you have one degree more than I have, so it's all good to go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the expert here.
beyond belief. You have no idea how much of an expert you are. So yeah, do tell us what was your experience, and because we discussed a little bit of this at the park, your experience about studying philosophy in the West and your takes on East and Western philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, my first degree was in philosophy. I was sort of pushed there thinking, oh, I'm going to find the truth. I'm going to find the answers to life. I'm going to really dig deep and I'm going to be the one who knows, and I'll get there and maybe I'll be a philosopher. And all you end up getting taught is the history of philosophy, in particular Western philosophy. So you start off with the Greeks and then you move on to European philosophy and then modern philosophy. And at no point do you ever really touch on Eastern philosophy or wisdom at all. And as we were saying in the park last week, it's sad really because there's a whole rich area, another half of the world's thinking that we just don't have any access to.
That's right. I mean, it's not to mention. I mean, I think we touched on the Asian, Southeast Asian philosophers like the Chinese and the Japanese, but there's a massive slew of I would imagine from Arab to Persian to Babylonian to Russian to Indian, sort of there's a whole stream of philosophers there that we didn't even touch on. The funny thing is, what I've noticed with the West is that if you take composers, for example, they have a much wider reach of different composers around the world. It's not just Western composers. We got your Mozarts and your Bach and all that, but then you go into the Russians and actually even Chinese and Japanese and Middle Eastern. But philosophy doesn't seem to have that same sort of span in the West. It just sort of stays with the Greeks and the Romans pretty firmly.
Yeah. The issue I think is that they split from the very beginning. So from the very, very foundation of their philosophies, they differ in their opinion. In Western philosophy, you have something called the laws of logic. So you've got the rule of the excluded middle, the law of non-contradiction. So these are taken as axiomatic laws. So they are taken for granted by the West. This is true. Whereas in the East, they say that's not true at all. So your whole logical system, your whole logical foundation is completely different.
Okay.
So that's why they have very little to do with each other really, because they will have different conclusions from the offset.
All right. And what have you, in your experiences, sort of taken from from both sides? Where do you fall now? Because I know you have a very Oriental or Japanese aesthetics. Is it Japanese? Am I right to say Japanese? Where do you get your inspirations from?
I just practice Zen, and I've been practicing Zen for a while.
Okay.
And I just like the Japanese clothes because they're really comfortable. In terms of what I practice, it's Zen, Zen meditation. I've got Zen outlook and things, but I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm a Buddhist. It's a bit silly.
So you don't. When you say Zen, how long have you been? Could you give us a little introduction actually into Zen? That would be good.
I've been practicing meditation for about 25 years. And about 5 years ago, I was getting into sort of deeper and deeper states of meditation, kind of by accident, really. And then a couple of years ago, starting to have different kinds of experiences within meditation. And then they said, oh, well, the reading that I was looking at said, oh, you need to go find a teacher now, which is what I went and did, found a Zen group and sit with them. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at with Zen. So I'm just a lay practitioner. I'm not a monk or anything. I wouldn't look to become a monk, not interested in that kind of thing. Uh, yeah, was that your question?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I was hoping a little more introduction into Zen. I take it Zen Buddhism
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
that where it comes from? I guess really it would be more of an introduction into Buddhism. I guess would you say you've had to study Buddhism in order to get more into the sort of Zen side of things, or are they separate?
Yeah, oh no, Zen's definitely a school within Buddhism. It's a school within the Mahayana school of Buddhism. So there are three main schools of Buddhism. There's the Theravada, the Mahayana, and then the sort of Tibetan schools. So the Theravada is essentially more of a monastic tradition that you'll find in South Asia. So they're more interested in the enlightenment for the individual. Mahayana schools are more interested in enlightenment for everyone. And then the Tibetan schools are kind of Buddhism mixed in with another religion called Bon. So they're a bit more spiritual, a bit more about ghosts and magic, that kind of thing.
Oh,
Zen, yeah, Zen is the school that kind of cuts away all the kind of woo woo spirit world stuff. It's more focused on the here and now. Where we're at.
interesting, interesting.
It-
So
yeah, I mean,
there
the
is
history of
actually
it.
a different, like there is a more, if you like, you said the woo woo sort of Buddhist Zen Buddhism, and then there is the grounded Zen Buddhism kind of.
I think Zen as a school is more grounded.
Okay.
Personally, I think that. I mean, the paradigm of Buddhism is completely different in so much as you you're not obliged to believe something. If you're a Catholic, you have to believe in the Trinity. You have to believe that
Mm.
Mary is a saint, etc., etc. In Islam, you have to believe that Muhammad's the only prophet, last prophet, etc. In Buddhism, there's no obligation to believe something. I don't have to believe in the historical Buddha. That's not something that it doesn't matter.
Interesting. So you don't, they don't, I mean, surely there must be some kind of prerequisites, some foundational things that you must believe in before you can then be part of this club. I mean, I guess that's the big thing about Abrahamic religions is it's a club. You're in or you're out. You don't. It's not a buffet. You don't pick and choose what you want. This is the club. This is the membership. You sign on the dotted lines and you're in. And if you don't, then you're not. But I guess you're saying to me that Buddhism isn't really like that. It is more of a buffet. You do actually pick and choose your path as you wish. But then there must be a framework around it in which you must follow this framework. Otherwise, I could do anything I want. I could, go around, worshipping Baphomet and still say I'm a Zen Buddhist. I mean, that there must be some framework in which you have to follow in order to then say, yes, I qualify in the Zen Buddhist sort of tradition.
Not really. It's kind of like saying I'm trans, and then you have to say they them. It is because you say it is. Think of it in
Damn.
those terms.
Damn. You immediately lost like 50% of my audience there, but that's okay. What? He's a wokey. But no, I mean, so you can literally define it for yourself as you go, because
Yeah, of
if
course.
that's the case, then how would you then determine who is really, who's following Zen Buddhism and who's following just their own, whatever the hell they make up in their own head? You're in L. Ron Hubbard and you're Scientologist.
Yeah, I mean, there are some Christians who say that they follow Zen Buddhism. I think that they're sort of mutually exclusive, but more from the Christian side. You saying you're a Christian wouldn't stop you from being, from practicing Zen.
Okay,
Um, but I think a Christian preacher or a vicar might have a problem with one of their flock going to a Zendo.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So,
We don't have like tenements of belief. It's not like you have to accept that X, Y, and Z happened or this is true about the world.
all right. But then, but there must be certain existential like truths that you have to, you know, accept. Let's give me an give you an example. Okay, I think therefore I am. So I'm not a brain in a jar. I believe I take some what's it called? Now, damn it, I forgot the term now. There's a term where you accept certain things, certain reality, certain aspects of reality, and you say, okay, I believe this is reality, and I believe my senses are giving me the correct information that the world in which that I interact with is the real thing, real world, and so I trust those senses because I haven't, walked in front of a bus yet, etc., etc. A presuppositionalist. That's it. So you presuppose certain things. There must. I mean, doesn't Zen have some levels of presuppositional aspects in which you have to say, okay, I accept these things in order for me to be
Mhm.
part of the Zen tradition? I don't know.
No. What the Buddhists have is a different form of logic. Again, it's the Indian form of logic, and we go off. One of the earliest sort of proponents of this was a guy called Nagarjuna. He was an Indian philosopher, and there's something
Okay.
called Nagarjuna's four-cornered negation. Sometimes it's called the tetralemma. So basically, there's different logical conclusions that you can have from argument and debate. So you've either got true, false, or true and false, neither true, neither false. So those are the four options.
Okay.
So that leads to something else called the doctrine of two truths. So you can say, yes, there are these presuppositions we can make about the world. If I walk out in front of a bus, I'm going to get hit by the bus. That will be true. You live in a house, that's true. And that's one level of truth. But there's another level of truth, of absolute truth, that has got nothing to do with that, and you arrive at that through different methods.
Okay.
That's the kind of Buddhist philosophy of there are
Can,
two different truths. There's something real about the world that we live in. You can't deny that, walking in front of a bus, you're going to get hit by the bus. Gravity exists. We go around a star, that kind of thing. That is one level of truth. But there's a truth above that, beneath that, whatever, behind that.
can you dig deeper into that? Can you give us the other truths or some examples of the other? Because I will tell you why. There's a guy called Reza Aslan. He wrote a couple of books. He's like a theologian, or at least he claims to be. I'll be honest, some people claim he's a bit of a charlatan. But he wrote a book called Zealot, which is about Jesus, life and times of Jesus. And he describes this way. He says, there are facts in the world which science explains to us. This is a fact, that's a fact, this is the physical reality of the world in which we live in. But then in the ancient times, they didn't talk about facts and figures. They talked about truths, certain things of being of truth. Not necessarily truth in the way that we quantify it through science, but truths about reality, about the nature of existence. I'm assuming that is the type of truth you're talking about. There's the two truths. There's the facts and figures of science and tangible things that we can quantify. And then there are the intangible truths about potential existence beyond the measures that science can tell us. Is that am I right in that? Am I anywhere?
You're nearly there, nearly there. Science is basically a way of describing the world, the physical world. So you can, definitely there are.
Sorry, your mic's gone a little bit off. I don't know what happened just now.
Oh, sorry, there are definitely scientific truths. So you could point that to, there are facts and figures we can look at. Mathematics, being part of the logical system, that is true. But that would be part of the physical world. So even when Christians are talking about Jesus and that God, that would also be part of the physical world, and that would not be part of the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is even beyond that. So you're looking at things like concepts. So a concept like justice. So there are moral realists or moral relativists who would say justice is a real thing in the world and that we can point to it. That would be part of the lower truth system, I suppose.
Okay.
Or the lesser of the two truths, rather than the absolute truth. So what in terms of the Zen school in particular, they don't like to talk about the absolute truth because they think it hinders the path to enlightenment, because it will give you a concept about it that will be, it will point you in the wrong direction. Whereas the Tibetan Buddhists would say, oh, no, we need to talk about that truth. It's the fundamental light of being kind of thing.
But where do you fall in this? Because you are a product, I would imagine. I mean, you look like a person who grew up in the West, in Britain. So you're a product of Western education, Western sort of mentality, Western thinking, and yet you've what's the word? You've adopted or tried to dive into the Eastern mindset and Eastern philosophy and Eastern thinking. Where do you then now fall in this spectrum of East and West sort of thinking?
Confused.
Come on, dude, I brought you on to explain to me the meaning of life. You can't be confused. I'm the one that's messed up.
No, yeah, I mean, my parents were sort of agnostic atheists. They're not really asked about religion. No one was bothered. I had friends who went to church, and I went to church with them. Never really felt anything. It all felt a bit weird. I
Interesting.
went to some happy clappy churches with those people, but I was never a believer. I could never
Yeah.
swallow the drink that Kool-Aid.
I'm with you.
And then went to the school where we were taught meditation in an RE class, and it really impacted me when we were doing it, and I just kept doing it. And then obviously went to go do the philosophy degree. And you kind of realize no one knows what's going on. Absolutely nobody. There are no fundamental truths that you can get to with logic or with this kind of philosophical debate, and it all ends up going around in circles and towards a dead end. And then you look at people who say, well, actually, no, there's something else. People who are having these spiritual experiences. And then I find myself having these sort of mystical experiences through meditation.
Yeah, keep finish your point, but go deeper into that part of it as well when you come round. Okay, go for it.
So, yeah, I mean, in terms of, you just listen to things, don't you? And you read and you think, well, that sounds convincing. That seems to be how the world is. If you look at the Buddha's teachings, we don't proselytize about Buddhism. No one's going to be like, have you heard the good news about Buddha? Knocking on your door.
No one's knocking on anyone's door going, can I introduce you to this?
Yeah. I mean, it took me a good 6 months to get someone to accept me as their student, because they just kind of say, no, get lost.
Oh, wow. So was this in Europe, or you actually went to the Far East?
Yeah, in Europe. Yeah.
Okay, because you met some Buddhists in Europe and you wanted to be a disciple, essentially.
Yeah, you want to be a student, really, just to learn from them, and because that's where the teachings were telling me, and you've got to go and learn now that you've had these experiences. You need to go and
study with someone.
Yeah, you need some instruction, basically, because it could go either way. It could go south for you.
I'm with you.
Could find yourself in some,
Okay, so there is a framework. There is some framework involved, because obviously going to a guru or an elder and being taught, they would then set some level of framework for you to guide you, essentially, to give you some boundaries. That's what I was thinking of, because imagine walking down a field and there is no fence. And that was the original thing that I took from what you said, is there's no fence. It's just a massive open field. Run around what you want. But then there are slowly, religion or philosophies or whatever gives you some, there's some fences being built around you. Now, the fences could be wide or narrow, but there are fences that you can, that you can't get out of. You have to walk these paths. Otherwise, you're just wandering around aimlessly.
Yeah, I mean, the point of Zen is to break down the fences that you put up for yourself and that other people have put up for you.
Okay.
Having been brought up in the West, having been brought up, as a child in a parent relationship, there are fences that your parents will have put up for you, and you will have made these pre-assumptions that simply aren't true. So what a Zen teacher will tell you is that they have nothing to teach you.
Interesting.
But the nothing that they teach you is literally nothing. You have to be taught that you are in kind of the void. But then there are no rules.
But then don't you feel suddenly like falling down a black hole, and you're aimless, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm just in the middle, like naked in the middle of a field in the middle of the night, can't see anything.
Well, the real world.
But that would put the absolute willies up most people. That would scare the living crap out of most people. People like fences. This is where Islam actually, I think, falls really neatly for a lot of people, because it gives you such rigid military style restrictions and instructions. It tells you when to sleep, when to get up, when to eat, when to take a poo. It literally instructs every aspect of your life, and some people just want that. They want that regimented lifestyle with very, very tight fences, very tight control, and they feel that they're gonna fall off the edge if they don't. But you don't.
Absolutely.
But how did you? I mean, surely there must have been that moment where you felt, as I said, like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in terms of the mystical experiences. You end up in places where you kind of think, I didn't realize that you could get this way without hard drugs.
Maybe you can get that way
you're
with
doing it
hard
just-
drugs.
Yeah, you can do, but it's you realize you're doing this just sat on a cushion.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So meditation can have that almost euphoric drug sort of feel once you get to that level, I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like LSD with a heroin chaser sometimes.
Damn.
Yeah.
And most people don't even realize that they're like, you know, they're
No.
hunting down the fentanyl dealer down the road, and all they needed was a cushion and some Zen.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, in terms of the practice, it's not the goal. It's a distraction, but it's a nice distraction. You know, it's nice to have it on the way, especially if you've got like a funky carpet going on in front of you. Then away
Interesting.
you go.
That's I would never have thought that was just possible without some sort of, you know, pharmaceutical assistance, because I mean, okay, I'll give you why. I listen to Sam Harris quite a bit, and he's into a lot of meditation and Buddhists and all that. And he says the person who tells you they can meditate for 10 minutes without distraction are lying to you straight away, especially if they're just beginner at meditation, because the monkey brain comes into play, and you're off chasing. You know, you're off, just your brain is just, I mean, you're not off, but your brain is just off, thinking about all sorts of things to actually truly focus. And I read this book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And in that book, they talk about the heart of the rose technique, where, you know, you look at the heart of the rose and you focus on that and try to totally be focused in that. And there was a friend of mine who did martial arts who also had similar sort of things, where people put a dot in the middle of a white sheet of paper and would pin that on the wall and try to just purely focus on that dot in the middle. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm OCD, DHD, you know, whatever acronyms you can think of. My brain doesn't stand still for 10 seconds. I'm looking at 4 screens. I'm looking at 3 screens right now. And there's 6 things happening on these screens. I'm still actually, believe it or not, trying to find you in that Jordan M video. I'm actually there right now trying to do that too. At the same time, I'm reading my chat with live chat and I'm talking to you. So you can imagine, monkey brain is everywhere. I have no control over
that's
mine.
absolutely fine. There are loads and loads of different types of meditation, and yeah, the people that say I can focus my mind perfectly on, you know, the Buddha for hours on end, it's bullshit.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they're lying to themselves, and they're definitely lying to you. The meditation that I practice is, and that Zen practices, is called Zazen. So Zen just means meditation. Zazen is sitting meditation.
Okay.
So you take a particular pose and you sit, and then you, as Dogen puts it, one of our sort of founders, says, you think the thought of not thinking, but you will continue to think. You just have to notice, you know, I am thinking. This is what I am thinking. And then eventually it's like you're sat beside a road watching the thoughts go by. You know, they have no effect on you, but you can't stop the road. You know, the cars and the thoughts will still go by.
Exactly.
But you realize that aspect of you, of what you are, isn't you. You aren't your thoughts.
But
That's kind of what you
What are
realize.
you if you're not your thoughts?
Good question. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
We'll have to find out.
You're being too honest. Make some shit up. But no.
It's Jesus. Basically, it's Jesus.
It's Jesus. It's Jesus. At the end of it, it's all Jesus. Because I actually put that as a poll. I said, who is the best philosophy? West, East, or none? Jesus is king.
Christ is king.
Because we heard that a lot on Sunday.
I
But
was quite pleased to hear that on Sunday. It was nice to hear a different chant.
yeah,
Right.
it's Allahu Akbar. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Yes, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a second as well, because I want to get into the whole Speaker's Corner Sunday event. But because I wanted this to be more of a philosophy sort of heavy sort of, or at least your philosophy heavy sort of aspect of the show. That's why I'm holding on to this a little bit longer. But yeah, so your description, if I'm right, is if you're meditating and your wild brain is, like you said, like a busy highway, and you can just picture yourself on the side of the highway, and as that highway is just going back and forth, cars are just running up and down, but you can choose to ignore that. You can step out of that. I can't step out. I'm right in the middle of the traffic. There's not, I can't even, the hard shoulder is so far away. and I just can't seem to change lanes. How have you? What were the first steps you took in your first early days? How did you start that very first sort of day?
Yeah, I mean, to get into it, I suppose when I was sort of thinking, I'm actually quite into this now. I kind of think might be, what is actually going on, and there's some truth here that's resonating with me. Is the idea that you are, excuse me, that you've misidentified yourself. You think that you're your thoughts, you're your body, you're your emotions, but you're none of these things. There's none of it that you can point to and say, that's me. It's just not possible. The Buddhists would say that there are 5 advaitas, so 5 sort of elements of yourself. One of them is your body, and the other 4 are parts of your mind. So your thinking, your everyday thoughts, your emotions, et cetera, et cetera. But they're always changing and always shifting. So at no point could you point to any part of your body and say, well, that's me. I am my brain, or I am my thinking, or I am my emotion, or none of them are you. So you have to end up kind of looking for, well, what is it that is you?
Well,
and that's the journey is to try and find out.
And I take it you haven't. Have you found you? Have you found part of you? Is there like an arm or a leg that's like sticking out? It's like
it's around the back.
It's buried in the backyard. I immediately killed it because it was horrific.
We had to drown that thing. It was awful.
I immediately smothered it with a pillow because I realized I was an awful man. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, how about if you spent all this time and you found you and then you were terrible? You were like, oh my God, I'm a monster. I have to kill myself. Sometimes you may not want to find the real you. Sometimes the ignorance is bliss. The Cypher situation in Matrix, when he's eating the steak.
Well, if you're looking for truth, you've got to face it. Carl Jung would talk about the shadow self. The part of you that knows that you're doing wrong, but you do it anyway.
But how do you then?
It's kind of like a radical acceptance. You have to say, well, yeah, that is me. I am that cunt sometimes.
But if that is the case, if you find yourself and you don't like yourself, well, I mean, I suppose in your case, I mean, you said you haven't found yourself, so you don't even know. I guess you haven't crossed that bridge yet to see how you would then change that man to a better man, to do the right things, or to be the right, to have the right path. Do you feel you are on the right path now than you were in the past? Because I can imagine. I mean, let's not split hairs or beat around the bush. You're a large man. You're a big man, and I would imagine you could fold people into a pretzel at any given moment that you wish. Were you ever wild and crazy when you were young and did things to people?
I mean, the crazy things that I did when I was young, and that I did to people, I was doing to myself. Drinking drugs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was mostly self-harm rather than external harm to other people. You weren't a bully. And
not at all, by any means, no.
Did you ever do any kind of martial arts?
No, I didn't actually. Well, I went to like a couple of karate lessons as a kid, but...
But you didn't go into like, I don't know, Tai Chi, Kung Fu?
No, there are people... like my teacher in Zen, he got into Zen through martial arts.
Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of people do.
That way, yeah. Because, it's an Eastern... most of the martial arts are Eastern, so people tend to have the philosophy come along with it.
Yes, yes. This is actually what Bruce Lee said about his students. If there's an interview, black and white interview with him, I've got it with a Canadian guy, and he says a lot of my students have both. Different students appreciate different things about martial arts. Some appreciate the physical aspect, some appreciate the philosophical aspect, and like. What's his name? Oh my God, I forgot his name. The guy who was in the Great Escape with the motorcycle.
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen. Yeah, he told Steve McQueen, and he says Steve McQueen, he's great at the physical side. He loves the physical aspect, and he's great, fighter. But James Colburn is a very peaceful man, and so he appreciates the philosophical aspect of martial arts. So his understanding of martial arts is deeper than Steve McQueen's, but Steve McQueen is better physically. So this is where the martial arts sort of have their yin and yang, if you like, or their different aspects. And for me, that's where I get my Eastern take from, because I come through martial arts. Lots of years of karate, and then sort of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Russian sambo, things like that. And so for me, yeah, my attachment is always through the martial arts aspect. But I do know that there is a lot of what we call bullshito. A lot of people who just talk nonsense about like the chi masters and all that nonsense. So yeah, there's a lot of charlatans in that as well. But so you were never really because, as I said, I mean, your stature you must have yourself in real life, people respond to your size, your stature, because big people are generally either feared or like women love them because they feel they're protected by them. So that never came into your younger youth, because a lot of guys who were my friends who were quite big lads always ended up in fights even if they didn't want to, because
you can become a bit of a punch
magnet. Yeah, you become a target, don't you?
Yeah, I better hit him first. And he kind of well, actually, that had nothing to do with me.
So so you never grew up through any kind of scenario in that way. Your life has generally been pretty peaceful, steady.
I'd like to say so, but my brother had a few mental health issues, so he wasn't peaceful at all. So growing up, he was older than me. So growing up, there was a bit of violence in that aspect.
Oh, brotherly sort of violence, but not like outside with strangers, or
steroids. No, not outside with strangers. No, not like Hamza from Hamza's Den. not
Hamza's Den. I see. Yeah, but okay. So that's so. I mean, it's just that. So you didn't have a wild, crazy. Because I hear a lot of stories at the park and other people where people grew up in gangs and drugs and all sorts of craziness, and then they found Jesus or Muhammad and they flipped their lives around. You didn't have that kind of a journey. Your life was pretty normal, for the most part, sort of average.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I got involved with drinking drugs, but not more than the average person, I suppose. And I was just better at it, I think.
You were a friend of mine says you were a good swimmer. When they threw you in the water, you swam really well.
Yeah, I live a life of abstinence now. I don't drink, and I don't take drugs, don't smoke, anything like that.
Interesting.
And I'm happier for it, but it wasn't because of Buddhism or Zen that I did that. And it wasn't at the same time that I did that. They're completely separate things.
I see. So you'd already given up most of that stuff before you actually came to Zen and all the other stuff. And you actually, in a way, you could say, found a new type of drug, which is much healthier, but still euphoric. Now, let me just get this final bit, because I actually found your clip that was, what's it called? That you were famously put on Soko Films with the funny thing is your attitude and your mannerisms to some extent is very similar to Jordan M. You guys come across as softly spoken. You don't want to you're not quick to anger. You seem kind of relatively, although Jordan M did.
Can I say something about Jordan M? Because
yes,
I actually had a bit of history with him before this.
Oh, interesting. Go on.
Only very slight. I was on one of the Dawa channels on one of these American Dawa guys, and I was sort of having a discussion with him about Islam, etc., etc. And he was in the live chat, basically chatting absolute shit about me. I was like, who the fuck's this guy?
Oh wow.
And so after we'd had our chat with this Dawa guy, I got on the live chat. I said, oh, maybe you'd fancy a chat sometime, Jordan, and sort of emailed him back and forth a little bit. And then for some reason he just backed out of it. I was like, okay. I think he thought this guy's insincere. As in, he's never going to get a shahada.
He actually. I mean, this is the problem. They think everyone has to take the shahada. Why don't you just have the conversation, and actually be open to the fact that maybe he might come out. I think there may be I don't know. I'm just psychoanalyzing for nothing here, but it may be a fear of you turning them maybe to away from Islam. Would that be a fear that they might have?
I don't know if I wouldn't like to speak for him in that aspect, but I think he kind of thought, well, obviously I'm not going to be able to persuade this guy, so what's the point?
But
that's about it really. But I had a couple of emails back and forth with the guy,
and he just never went through with it.
Usually distasteful. I think his videos where he's got these two sort of alter egos. Have you seen that, Jeff and Dave?
Oh my God, those ones. Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, the
they're
very
cringe.
definition of mature man. They really wind me up.
Oh, they are very cringy. Yes, yes, I've seen those ones. And yeah, when he puts on the, have you seen the ones with the wig? He puts on like a
Oh, I've not
wig.
seen it work.
Oh, there's
That's the rap.
go to my Rumble channel, Banksy Style Live on Rumble, or Banksy Style on Rumble, because he has them all taken off YouTube because they copyright claim, they claim them for some reason or another. Him and other people that I put videos up, they don't, they just always have them taken down. So I managed to get it on Rumble, and it's still there. And yeah, he puts on a wig as if he's like an atheist, like a
Okay.
nerdy atheist. That's his. I think that's his persona on that one. And then he has like a back and forth with his alter egos. Oh, it's cringy. It's cringy as hell. It's
Have
horrific.
you seen the video where he thinks he was punched by a gin?
That's also on my Rumble. Yes.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I also managed. I didn't record that because I was actually in Cornwall at the time when he was doing his live stream. But I was just lying in bed watching his live stream, and that suddenly came up, and I was like, "Son of a bitch! I gotta download this."
Yeah.
And then I didn't. The next day, he'd obviously taken it offline because he realized how crazy that sounded. But someone else snagged it, and then they posted it, and then I found it. And I also downloaded it and posted it on my Rumble. So yes, if you want to listen to Jordan M talk about how he was, he had the shit kicked out of him by a gin.
What I found interesting about that was that he now sleeps with some kind of incantation playing in the background. just
Does
to
he?
prevent that.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen. Oh my God! Oh, that
Same
would be
video, yeah,
who has got that video?
It's the same one, the same video. He
Oh,
says, "Well,
it's
I sleep
oh.
with something on cassette now." It's based on-
Interesting.
I think-
Okay, I didn't. Maybe that was later on in that stream, but I didn't hear that bit. I may have to go and listen to that again. So he actually plays like a Quranic
I
thing.
think so. It must. I don't know exactly what it would be.
Well, I mean, most people just play like verses from the Quran, azan
Yeah.
type stuff and stuff like that. Because most of the prayers, because my grandma used to do it all the time. Every time she got in a car with my dad driving or anyone driving, she would then start praying and start all that shit in order to keep us safe from the journey. And it's always just a Quranic verse, essentially. It's basically, I mean, even the prayers that they do, the du'as and all that, they're just Quranic verses that they're reading. Al-Fatwa and anyway, the first verse and all that stuff. I'll be honest, I completely forgot most of it. I know Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That's as far as I get. And it's Malio. So there you go. You see, it's gone. It's gone. Malio something, and that's it. But yeah, that was. You see, the indoctrination is so deep that all these years. I mean, the last time I had to say this for a prayer, I was 11 years old. And I'm not going to tell people how old I am for doxers, but a long time ago, really decades and decades ago. But it's there. It's just stuck in there. You know what I mean? You can't get it out. Once it's in, it's in. But I would imagine. Do they have any chants in yours in like Zen? Or do you chant things?
Yeah. We chant sutras during the sittings. So you'll sit for half an hour, then you'll do a walking meditation, sit for another half an hour, and then you'll do chants for about 20 minutes. So some of those are in English, some of them are in Japanese. But even when the Japanese do the chants, they are chanted, the words are Japanese, but they're chanted in a Chinese dialect. So even they don't understand what it is.
Oh, interesting. So even the Japanese don't even know really fully what.
Some of them, yeah. Sometimes,
Wow,
yeah.
interesting. It's funny that because the Quran, a lot of people know this, that some of it is in Syriac. I think we discussed this. And even the Muslims themselves, most Muslims don't even know what they mean because they claim, oh, these are verses that no one knows what they mean because it's not Arabic. And they're like, no, it's because it's Syriac and none of you idiots know how to read it. So that's why nobody managed to translate it. So, yeah, and it's interesting that...
I've got a Quran here.
Oh, you have? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've got a Because about, when this Palestine thing kicked off,
Oh yeah.
I thought, well, I don't know anything about Islam, and it all seems quite related to, it seems like there's a religious war going on, so
Mm.
I'll find out a bit more. Because I thought, Islam was just Christianity, and there were some nutty people, just like you get some crazy, crazy.
Um, I mean, I wouldn't say it's just Christianity. It is a amalgamation of
Oh, I was wrong.
Christianity and yeah.
I was way wrong.
There's
So,
a
so
few
yeah,
other bits.
when all that kicked off, I started to go on these Dawa channels just to ask them, what's this, what's that? Because I was interested in Sufism. There's a lot of mysticism in Sufism,
Yes,
which,
there is.
I found interesting. I was definitely talking to the wrong people because these are Sunni Islamists who
Yes.
know fuck all about.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you're talking to people like Hamza and Abbas and whatever Hashim and all these guys, and also even what's his name, Shamsi. I mean, he's a proper Madkhali or whatever they call it. He's from one of the most radical schools. He's a Wahhabi.
Is he?
Yeah. He comes from. I think he is actually Wahhabi. He comes from that school of thought. He comes from the most extreme school of thought.
Like a proper Salafist Wahhabist.
Yeah, the stuff the ISIS people follow and
Yeah, we'll cut your head off without thinking twice about
yeah,
it.
absolutely. And the funny thing is, Shamsi is the one that walks around, talking about how peace and love and all that crap is we should respect this and ironically, he's the one that encourages more peaceful actions by Muslims in this country than all the other Dawa guys. He is, he's in fact he got attacked in the streets of London because he refused to stop buying Starbucks.
Okay.
Because with the start of all this October 7th stuff in Israel and Palestine, all the Muslims were boycotting Starbucks and stuff like that, and Shamsi refused to do it. He says this is stupid. This won't change a thing. You guys are idiots. I like Starbucks. I'm going to keep buying it. And he got attacked in the streets. He got punched in the mouth for it. There's a video of it on Twitter.
Yeah, I found this quote. It's from a guy who's an Arabic manuscript scholar. Who's a German guy. And Yemen got this guy in to look at some of the manuscripts that they had found. And I think Yemen take their Islam pretty seriously.
Oh yeah.
The Quran claims for itself that it's mubin or clear, but if you look at it, you will notice that every fifth sentence or so simply doesn't make sense. Many Muslims and Orientalists will tell you otherwise, of course, but the fact is that a fifth of the Quranic text is just incomprehensible.
There you go.
So when they say, you need to read it in the Arabic, it's like, well, the people who read it in the Arabic say it's bullshit.
Well, it's incomprehensible. They don't know most of or a fifth of it what it means. But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Most people, it's because it's a hodgepodge of things. I suspect, and this is where I was actually on God Logic's. I think you saw God Logic at Speaker's Corner.
Quite a few people there who are quite well known, weren't there?
Yeah.
Day to go.
Yeah. The heavy hitters came in from the Christian side, or at least the Christian apologetic side, that day. We had God Logic, we had David Wood, Jay Smith, and of course Bob, and the other sort of Danny Tomo and the other English sort of guys. But certainly from the apologetic side, I'd say God Logic is very much up there now. At least he's definitely carved himself a reputation. Now, he was saying, I was on his channel once, he was doing an open panel, and I did say to him, there is a, I keep forgetting it, I've written it down, it's Surah, I think, 66, verse something or other, where Muhammad discusses, essentially, there's a surah came down from Allah, saying to Muhammad's wives to stop talking back behind each other's backs, or stop scheming, because Muhammad had apparently told, I think, Aisha something that he wasn't, that she, or the other wife, it was between these two wives, that he told her not to tell anyone else, and then she'd gone and told this other wife, and they were kind of scheming, and Muhammad brought, or Allah sent down a surah for this. Muhammad's domestic issues were the responsibility of the creator of the universe, and those to me are the telltale signs, the fingerprints of man, the fingerprints of human beings.
Of a cult.
Yeah. meddling with all this. Now, whether there's a creator of all things and creator of the universe, I'm not even on that level to even sort of mention that. I'm talking about when I say I'm an atheist or atheist agnostic, I'm an atheist to the shit that these people spout. I don't believe them any more than I believe J.K. Rowling's stories of Hogwarts and Harry Potter or R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones. In fact, they have more validity for me. They have a better structure to their stories than the Quran does. So my fundamental contention is, even if because this is what they do. This, by the way, this is Ali Darwan, Muhammad Hijab's favorite trick now for atheists and non-believers, is they pull them into a deist conversation. They don't discuss their religion. They pull you into a deist conversation of trying to convince you that can there be or should there be a creator of all things. Whilst my contention isn't even in that. I don't even care. If there is a creator of all things, it hasn't actually affected my life directly in any way that I know of. So the deist argument isn't even my contention. My contention is what you're selling is snake oil, and you're bullshitting to me. You're pissing on my head, and you're telling me it's raining, and I can see your willy. So stop pissing on my head. So that's my biggest thing with these people, is that the stuff you guys are spouting as the word of the deity of the universe seems so incredibly bad that if an omnipotent, omniscient being actually dictated the Quran, it should be ashamed of itself. It should put itself in the corner and think about what you've done, young man. Because it's horrible. It's so badly written, so badly ill thought out, and it's clear that towards the end of Muhammad's life, especially these passages who are at the end of Muhammad's life sort of revelations.
The stuff that abrogates all the nice stuff.
Exactly. And first of all that, but second of all, it's clear that these are all based around some sort of Game of Thrones cutthroat jostling,
self-serving.
Yes, political jostling, and not only his, because I don't even believe he revealed all of it. I think some of it came about after he died. Now, admittedly, that's all just purely my own speculation, but I suspect a lot of it came in. A lot of the surahs were put in by Omar and the caliphs, because they were all jostling for power. It happens every time a king is about to die. All the viziers and all the generals, everybody's jostling for their position, because they don't know what the next king's going to do. The next guy could have
all the Aruf are gone.
Exactly.
And then when Uthman burnt it,
exactly.
Like, well, what happened then?
Exactly. Exactly.
You had 7 different versions that were supposed to be in different dialects, and then suddenly all of that's burnt, as if you wouldn't be in reverence of the pieces of paper that first wrote down the words of God. You wouldn't think, oh, we might keep that, just for a keepsake.
It might be historically valuable. We kept the Egyptian statues, for crying out loud.
Burn that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Hadith, which is just ludicrous, and the fact that they call it the science of the Hadith is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Like, which historian would you go to and said, oh, by the way, I think 200 years ago, my grandmother spoke to, Jean down the street, and Jean down the street never lied. And she spoke to Jeff, who worked at the shop, and Jeff never lied either, because, Jean said that Jeff never lied.
Exactly.
And they said that she said that they heard from Phil, who also worked at the bookstore. Phil was known to tell the truth. That Muhammad said.
Phil never lies. Phil's just the most truthful. He is so good. He's never lied. He's never said a wrong word in his entire life. Sorry, I'm literally going to load up your little clip, because you just came into shot now. So I'm just going to try and share that with the audience. Let me bring this in. Let me make this that. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Oliver coming into shot when Bob was discussing with Jordan M, our favorite convert. Oh.
A lack of logic,
really,
your lack of ability to string together an argument. He's an atheist. He's not on my side.
I'm not an atheist, I'm a Buddhist.
Buddhist, sorry. So he's not exactly on my
What
side.
happened to me under Sharia? A polytheist, according to your scholars. What happens?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear everything okay, Oliver?
I can't hear it, but I don't know.
Oh, you can't hear it? Oh, damn. I thought you could hear it as well. Hold on. I thought I should.
I was there, it's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know what happened. Let me just make sure all the audience can. I think the audience can hear it. Okay. Hold on. Oh, damn. Just now it's buffering. Now you're buffering? Seriously?
It's a polytheist under Sharia.
Yeah. There we go.
On my side.
I'm not an atheist, I'm a Buddhist.
Buddhist, sorry. So he's not exactly on my
What
side.
happened to me under Sharia? A polytheist, according to your scholars. What happens to polytheists under Sharia?
Yeah, what does happen to polytheists under Sharia?
Nothing. Nothing.
That's not true.
What happened?
That's
Nothing.
not true. They'd be killed.
He said nothing. He had the goal to say what happens to polytheists under Sharia, and he said nothing.
Yeah.
It's literally 1400-year record of what happened to polytheists. All the Persian Zoroastrians had to flee to India. They're called Parsians now because of
You won't find any Buddhists in Afghanistan, will you?
exactly. Dear God. Okay, let me just play it a little bit more, but I think that's it.
I think I could give him the benefit of the doubt there and just say he's ignorant. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
I mean, you don't call for a set of laws that you're ignorant about, though, do you?
Exactly. Well, then in that case, he's not only ignorant; he's an idiot for calling for Sharia law.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! Why is this thing buffering so much? What's wrong? It was just
Shut
playing.
down. What have you done?
Yeah, but I mean, it was just playing, and then all of a sudden I paused it, and now it's just buffering. This is not good for us. Oh, come on. Anyway, we kind of got it. That was your moment in the sun. You
My moment of fame.
yeah, you got yourself in the thing.
Yeah.
Let me.
I mean, one of the things about Jordan M is that he's always saying, "Oh, people call me a traitor. I just don't get it." It's like, well, can you not see that you're kind of breaking the social contract? That you were brought up by this country, you were made safe by this country, educated by us, obviously badly, but the idea that you'll now call for us to disappear off the face of the earth.
Yeah, sorry, I was just checking to make sure that everything's still playing, but yeah, somehow for some reason this thing has gone nuts.
Nothing.
That's not
There
true.
it is. There it is. Let me see.
What happened?
That's not true. They'd be killed.
It depends
Yeah.
on who.
Well, who are the Alim Al-Kitab?
Bob, it's going to have to be lying.
Who are the Alim Al-Kitab, Jordan?
Okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's essentially, yeah. It was Bob then went into who were the people who were of the book, people of the book, and then everyone else. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so for the people who don't know, basically Jordan M was forced into a corner where he had to say, "Yes, I want Sharia law for the UK." Which he didn't want to say in public because I think he kind of knows that he'd get some shit for that.
yes.
But he couldn't say no because his Islamist mates would drag him up about it.
I would drag him up. I've got him on Veli Vision's live panels where he comes up and talks about how Sharia law would be great for Britain. I would have literally had a field day clipping that and make a whole compilation. In fact, I might still find most of it. It's because the problem is this chap Veli Vision, whose brother used to come to Speaker's Corner on the channel Content Over Everything. And he's great guy, very neutral. They try to keep themselves neutral. They're not religious. Admittedly, Veli is an atheist, so he's definitely not religious. And he holds panels for like 10, 11 hours. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, he does like an all-day panel. Through his panels, we discovered that after 12 hours, YouTube no longer saves your videos. So if you go beyond 12 hours streaming, that doesn't get saved anymore. Only 12 hours at a time gets saved. So you have to restart it.
We'll keep this to 11, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going that far. But yeah. So anyway, the thing is, when people come on there for all that hours, they say all sorts of things. They say everything. They spill their guts. They purely spill their guts. I've said some major messed up stuff in there, but it's Luckily, it's mostly buried inside a 12-hour stream. So no one goes in to try to dig that out because you have to go through a 12 hours of stream. Nobody has that much life. People got shit to do. So they say these things in a 12-hour stream or 10-hour stream. Nobody bothers digging it up. Yeah, but I know he said it, and I know it's there. I just have to spend the next. And believe me, if he had out and out lied and said I've never called for Sharia law, I would have dug that out. It might have taken me 11 hours, but it would have been 11 hours well spent.
Yeah, so he calls for Sharia law, and then basically Bob jumps on him and says, "Well, would I be your dhimmi then? Would I be your dhimmi?" Which is a second-class citizen. Essentially, you're definitely a second-class citizen. That'd be a nice way of putting it. You'd have to be subjugated with the jizya. So, and they said, well, the jizya was only 2%. It's like, no, that's bullshit. It was 50% at the time. They have to feel subjugated. And then I jump in and basically say, you're the fucking lucky one. You get the jizya. you forget about the rest of us.
Yes, you don't even get that option as a polytheist.
That's secret option 3 for me.
Yep.
I'd be, it'd be convert or die.
Well, this is
you as well.
Oh yeah, atheists. Oh my God, that line us up. The first people will be lined up, and this is the unholy union which I find in these Palestinian protesters of the communist socialist parties protesting with the Islamists. And I'm like, you guys don't really know your history, do you? You do know that when Ayatollah Khomeini came into Iran, he literally lined up, the first people he lined up to shoot was the communists. He shot and imprisoned almost every communist that was protesting in the 1979 protests. They were gone. They were like at least 90% of them were gone. Then the few that were left were irrelevant and they weren't a danger to the regime. But that's the first thing they would do. These communists are the first ones for the firing squad, and they're like the ignorance and the lack of understanding of how political power works. For some of these marches, some of these people that I see, I'm like, you guys have no idea the world in which you live in. You have no idea what took, how much blood was spilt, the rivers of blood that was spilt for you to live in this century in the conditions that you're living in. Your history, yeah, and you're literally with your own hands going, nah, fuck it, it's all right. We don't need NHS anymore.
Yeah, we don't need justice. We don't need fairness. That can go under the bus.
I swear to God, they have no idea. They think like we just woke up one day and arrived in the 21st century with equality rights and social care and all of these things. This is why these idiots go off to. You hear it, there's loads of them in the news reports where they go off to places like Morocco, and these two vegetarian Canadians decided to travel from Europe to, I think it was China or somewhere, and they were cycling throughout, and some of the areas they were going to cycle through was ISIS territory. They were told, do not go into these territories, these are ISIS. Guess what happened? They were found beheaded in ISIS territory. Shocking. Shocking.
No. Surprise.
It's like you privileged assholes. You have no idea what the world that you're living in. You have no idea how cruel and horrific this world is, how life is cheap in certain parts of the world. Life is meaningless. They will kill you like that in a heartbeat. They won't even pay. They'll literally cut your head off and go off to lunch, and they'll sleep like a baby that night. They won't even think about you. That's how. Yeah. That's how life is cheap in some parts of the world. They will cut your head off and won't even think twice about it. What are you doing? You have no idea the bubble you're raised in, the privileges of life in Canada, life in Europe. This is why the rest of the world is literally dying in the seas trying to get to these countries. They're paddling on dinghy boats trying to get in because they know the horrors that awaits them in the other countries. These countries are not great. The people don't run away from paradise. No more. Mostly people are running away from hell. And people like Jordan M. And the communists and all these marching idiots in the streets every Saturday. I just feel like you have no idea. You have no idea the world in which those poor men and women in the Second World War, in the First World War, they went and they got slaughtered They literally ran into machine gun fire to keep this society, to make this place the way it is. People, there are mountains of bodies right now buried out in the fields of France and Germany to give you this life. They did that for you. You ungrateful assholes. I mean, the funny thing is, my ancestors didn't even die for this country. My ancestors were in Iran, fucking around with muskets. They didn't even have proper guns at that time in Second World War. I asked a friend of mine, because the Germans came through Iran during the Second World War, built a railway to ship supplies to their Russian front. And I said to my friend, how come the Iranians didn't fight the Germans? Like, they weren't on the German side.
Yeah.
Exactly. He said to me, with what? They had muskets. The Iranians had muskets when the Germans had machine guns. They had nothing at the time in that period. So, no, of course they're not going to fight them. They're like, what are we going to do? We're going to get slaughtered. Funny thing is, that railway that they built, still in operation today. The Germans know how to build their shit. I will give them that. Their engineering is insanely good. They built this thing in a hurry to just ship supplies to their own Russian front, and it's still an Iranian operation.
Have you ever heard those AI translated speeches from Hitler?
Oh yeah. Oh my God, they're frightening.
This guy, apart from the Jewish stuff, you kind of think, this sounds like someone say.
This kind of sounds like Farage.
A bit, yeah. Apart from the Jews are doing this, Jews are doing that.
I mean, he blamed it all on a minority group, and this is, unfortunately, yes, there is. This is. I can see why the left has fear of populists, because the populists do tend to pick a group and say every problem in your life is on the head of these people, and then they'll use that as an excuse to get away with whatever thing that they want to get away with. And it's true, there is an essence of that. And I think these leftists, or the people who are pushing against some populist attitudes, they probably read the subtitles of Hitler's speeches. They didn't listen to them. They ignored the rantings in German, but they read the subtitles and they know what he was saying. A lot of it makes sense. A lot of it is nationalist pride and looking after your own people. And most people resonate to that. Why wouldn't they? I mean, why wouldn't an Englishman wouldn't care about England? You'd be an idiot to not want to care about it. I care about England. I'm not even an Englishman. I'm like, Englishmen, what are you doing? You idiots. My people screwed up my country. I don't want you to do the same.
I mean, Iran wasn't even that long ago, was it? Where they had the revolution.
1979.
Before the revolution, it was a reasonably liberal country.
It was very, very liberal. It was considered like the Paris of the Middle East. And yes, and Afghanistan exactly the same. In the 70s, 70s and 60s, Afghan women wore modern European dresses. They lived European lives. The Afghans. This is the funny thing, because I've got a few Afghan friends, and they are kind of torn up. They don't really like the Taliban. But the problem with the Afghan is the Afghan are insanely nationalistic, and they don't give a damn. Even if you bring them gold, if it's from a foreigner that wants to control them in any way, they'll spit it back in your face. They will not allow conquerors in their land. They fought everyone. And they just won't allow it. They won't accept it. 20 years America tried to give them supposed democracy, and they just don't. They won't take it. They won't take it even if it's good medicine for them. They won't take it from a foreigner. They have to come to it themselves. So they would rather have the dictatorships of the Taliban than to have the Western world rule them or control them or tell them which way they should live their lives. And the Afghans inside Afghanistan are split up though. They're not gonna. They don't want the Taliban. Unfortunately, they have the Taliban. They're stuck with them for now, but they don't really want them. But they don't want America or anyone else telling them what to do either. They don't want to be beholden to the foreign Western powers or any powers. India, Iran. Even if Iran came and told them what this is how you should live your life. In fact, I think at some point in history, the Afghans invaded Iran and took over. There was like a king of Iran that was an Afghan or something a long time ago. But nobody. They don't take shit from anyone. They are vicious fighters, fierce fighters. I mean, you can listen to the testimonies of soldiers from Afghanistan, American Marines and British soldiers. They're like, these guys are seasoned fighters at like 15. We're trying to train. So go.
The geography alone would defeat any
Yeah.
incoming army. You know, if Alexander the Great couldn't beat them, then
Exactly. See
good
what I
luck.
mean? He only got so far in the east. He couldn't go past. He didn't conquer the Afghan regions.
No.
It's the same. Yeah, no, but I mean, they're vicious. They're vicious fighters, very fierce, and they just will not accept. They will. There's a scene in Rambo 3, because in Rambo 3 it's all in Afghanistan fighting the Russians. There's a scene. The Afghan fighters will tie their own legs together whilst shooting at the incoming armies, the Russian armies with tanks, and they'll tie their own legs so they're not tempted to run away. So they'll just sit there and just fire until the tanks roll over them. That's the kind of, you're not going to get any GIs pulling that kind of shit. So yeah, I mean, you can't. It's really difficult to go up against people like that have got that sort of mentality.
Yeah, my point was that the societies can turn on a sixpence. You know, like Iran did. You know, it just takes a revolution and a quick change, and then away you go. You're heading down a completely different path. You know, our future isn't set in stone. Democracy isn't guaranteed for our
100%,
future. We aren't guaranteed freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Oh yeah.
You know, these aren't things that, you know, in 100 years we are definitely guaranteed to have. You know, it can change, and it will change eventually.
And the funny thing is, the ones that are the most hard fought for, like freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of assembly, they're the first to go. They will take those from you immediately. I mean, most of the time, despots and dictators immediately disarm the population. That's what the first thing they'll do, because they can't have an armed population. Right now, Iran has got that quagmire. If Israel or America goes to war with Iran, Iran's biggest problem is, how do we conscript regular Iranians and give them guns, because the first thing they'll do is turn those guns around and shoot us. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of these oil-rich nations have got that problem, because when you are an oil-rich nation, you don't need your population. You've got oil, and it doesn't take that many people to get oil out of the ground. So the very last thing you want is an educated population who might decide that, you know, you're a dick and we want rid of you, or an armed population.
yes.
So Saudi Arabia's army is made up of foreign fighters. You know, a lot of
Yes.
them are Indian. Pakistanis. You know, their air force alone is mostly ex-RAF people.
Because it's mercenary type,
It's
army.
mercenary stuff. They think they can pay for it. But when push comes to shove, a mercenary army is going to disappear.
Well, exactly. I mean, the mercenary army will only stay there. I mean, the money's only good as long as you're alive. If you think you're going to be on the losing end of this, and you're the one that's going to die, then no, they'll check out, because they're not going to. You know, what's the point of money when you're dead? So yeah, I mean, in Iran's case, they have a similar setup that they've built over years. They've built Hezbollah in Libya, so that's their mercenary army. They've got they brought some of the Hamas people on their side, but Hamas has got their own issues to deal with and quagmire that they're stuck in with Israel. But they have, and the Syria, by the way, you know, the amount of help Iran, the Iranian Republic regime, gave to Syria to get rid of the ISIS group and crush the rebellion that was, that Assad was dealing with. All of that wasn't for nothing. There's going to be that's the Godfather calling in a favor eventually, and they're going to call in that favor if it looks like the regime's going to fall, and they'll bring in those Syrian soldiers, they'll bring in those Hezbollah, and they have already. They did it in it was, I think, 2014-15 when they had the Green Revolution. That was a little revolution against Ahmadinejad when he was being re-elected, or being elected for the first time. He was one of those, and the Iranian people rose up a little bit, did a bit of fussing. But unfortunately, it was quashed, and it wasn't quashed by Iranian soldiers or Iranian police. It was actually quashed by people who were saying these guys were speaking Arabic to each other. They were Hezbollah. They were coming from Lebanon. They brought them in to beat the living crap out of the Iranian population. Also, not only that, sniper them. There was plenty of people. There was a young girl. I forgot her name. She got shot on camera through the neck. She died on film. It was horrific. It was actually on YouTube at the time, believe it or not. And this was, back when YouTube was a bit more open, kind of like Twitter now, I guess. But yeah, it was crazy. You could see the poor girl just started immediately because they shot her through the neck. Her lungs started filling up with blood, and then her ears and nose and eyes started bleeding out. You could it was a thing of nightmares. But yeah, that's how they did it in Iran, and that's what they will do if the next whatever uprising occurs. Unfortunately, the only thing that I can see is possibly an all-out war with like Israel or America, but Iran's going to turn into an Iraq. It's going to be devastated. It's going to become a failed nation, and I'll be honest, I don't want that. I've got relatives who still live there.
No,
so,
nobody wants that.
So yeah, it's a terrible situation over there right now. But anyway, getting back to Britain and our essentially, this is what I wanted to say was we are custodians of the freedoms that we've been given by other greater generations. And is this inevitable, or do you think that there is a way to turn the ship around, that we can actually get back the freedoms that we've essentially lost, and the sort of, the grounds that we've lost to the government through all these stupid legislations, the hate speech legislations and this and that. And I'm sure if you can chime in on the Scottish legislation as well. I'm sure you've seen and heard of that one as well with Hamza Youssef. So yeah, what do you think?
Everything that's been pushed against us in recent years has kind of been, let's say in the last sort of 25 years, especially since sort of New Labour. It was Tony Blair who brought in these sort of terrorist act stuff and Police and Crime Act and all that kind of thing, where people were essentially through the back door, lots of civil liberties were being taken away. You no longer had the right to silence. They could arrest you at will, because of the terrorist legislation. Police could essentially just pick you off the street and say, well, we think you're up to no good, so in you go, back of the van, lad. All that kind of stuff is small potatoes compared to people calling for fucking Sharia law.
Exactly.
That's a different thing altogether. And you've got, I don't know if we're listening to the Islamists too much, because I hear, you hear it a lot from the Dawa guys, you hear a lot from the people in Speaker's Corner, we're going to take over, Sharia for the UK, the demographics show that we're going to be the population that are going to control everything. And if that does start to happen, I think my worry would be that there's just going to be an inevitable pushback from the population and a massive swing to the right in our politics. It's the only thing I can see happening.
Yeah, and you actually, yeah. Before you go into the next one, your thoughts on Hamza Youssef and also the current, if you like, move to the right in Europe with Le Pen and all the rest. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you've got people like Geert Wilders, haven't you? If Geert Wilders wasn't in a coalition, he'd be banning the Quran and closing down mosques.
Most, yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, that's what he said he would do. And there's no reason to think he wouldn't. So all it takes is another round of voting, and maybe that will happen. I'm not suggesting that that's what ought to happen, but there will be a pushback if you keep pushing people in a certain way. You say we're going to demand that you follow our religious laws. There's going to be people who say, well, actually, no, I don't want that, and they're not just going to sit back and go, oh, okay, fine, fair enough, you take over. It's just not how the world works. And I think that the idea that God will help them, there's varying opinions on that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
The people of Gaza.
Yeah, I don't. I would say that if God was going to intervene, He would probably put his foot down in Gaza a little bit and do something there. So clearly Allah is not the one. And these are some of the things that I say to the Muslims. They themselves must question it if they really think deep. That if God is
question it, all they will think is we're not doing hard enough. We must do more. We must stop. We can't march with the LGBT people. We can't do this. We need to enforce the laws more. We're not doing it enough.
We're not being Muslim hard enough. We've got to Muslim harder. Maximum effort.
But that's what they found out in Iran. No one wants it.
Exactly. Exactly. The thing is, in Iran, I don't even think everyone wanted it to begin with. There was a massive, multiple factions after the revolution. There was the communists, the mujahideens, the socialists, the royalists. There were still royalists around, and capitalists as well. It's just Khomeini came in with a small group, not a majority, but a relatively large size support. And they just killed, and they smashed their way into power, and they held their position because they just essentially killed the most of the opposition. Then there was this massive war between Iran and Iraq, which got rid of pretty much any revolutionary aged person. For 8 years, they killed, almost 1 million young men died essentially in Iran, and so the next generation that came through were all fully indoctrinated into the Islamic Republic. I mean, I was myself being told to say death to America, death to England, death to Israel every morning in assembly. Every morning you go to assembly, that was the first thing you started chanting. So if you're at a...
What was that like? Were you a believer in that? Did you think, oh yeah, death?
No, I mean, the thing is,
kind of
I was like 6-7 years old, so you pretty much, things are blur in that my life. I wasn't exactly taking it in. I wasn't politically active. I was mostly just going to school, being told what to do what I was told to do. That's it. That's all it was. I never really, I lost my, if you like, faith in religion at about the age of 8. And that was mostly because of my grandma and a question about Adam and Eve. I asked her, long story short, I've told this story before. I asked her about Adam and Eve because all the depictions of Adam and Eve have always been white people. I've always ever seen. I don't know if you've ever seen non-white people, but I've only ever seen white man, white woman with fig leaves and all that stuff, the traditional image. So I asked her, if Adam and Eve were white, where did black people come from? Because if these two were the first two people in the world, white, as far as I knew, white people make white people. No white person has ever two white people haven't come out with a black one. So my grandma's explanation essentially was, Adam and Eve had a fight, then they split off for a while, and God wanted to bring them back together. So he created a black woman to make Eve jealous. So he gave Adam a black wife. And then Eve became jealous, and they got back together again. But then, there was this black woman, and then she had kids, and black people came into the world. This is ridiculous. I mean, obviously, it makes no sense on any level. Immediately that night, I was an atheist. That evening, I was like, "This is this is clearly bullshit. There is no way this is a thing." But the funny thing is, apart from Eve, there was another woman that God created for Adam. The first woman wasn't Eve. The first woman was Lilith. But Lilith somehow became, I don't know, evil or some shit. I found this out like decades later. But maybe my grandmother was right. Black people come out of Lilith. I don't know. It just immediately I knew that was nonsense. So anyway, but for me, being raised in that environment, being raised in that, I can only imagine someone going through that system until their 20s. Of course, they're gonna some of it, no matter how liberal your household may be, your society is going to affect you. Your friends are going to affect you. If my friend had whilst growing up in my teens, my friend had joined the Revolutionary Guard, I'd want to join the Revolutionary Guard. I would have been, wanting to follow them, because your peer group is sometimes has more influence than your parents. So I can imagine that there's still a vast majority or vast numbers of young Iranians who are indoctrinated into this system. The amazing thing I find is that the millennials and the Zoomers seem to be far more liberal and far more westernized than my generation. And I think that's because of the advent of the internet and communication and all of that stuff. So they're the ones now in the streets. They're the ones that are dying. They're the ones that are getting shot. I mean, I can show you a picture of this guy who's protesting outside the Foreign Office with tents and stuff, and there's billboards of children.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
You seen it? You seen the guy who's out there? He's got billboards. By the way, I haven't seen one single Middle Easterner protest about this. When they talk about Gazan kids being murdered by Israel, when they're all screaming about all the children. Not a single one of them has ever gone down there and video or shown those pictures of 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds, it's just, wall to wall pictures of boys and girls just being not being killed because a bomb fell on them. No, being shot purposefully. Someone aimed the gun and shot them. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Every one of them were killed intentionally. Nobody gives a shit. They don't give a shit. None of the Arab world gives a shit. And even though...
They don't give a shit about what's going on in Yemen. They don't give a shit about what's going on in Syria. More people have died every 6 months in Syria than have died in the whole of that Gaza
Exactly. I saw pictures of Yemenis children starving because Yemen is suffering from a famine right now.
Yeah.
I was like... the Palestinian kids look practically well fed in comparison to these Yemenis kids. The Yemenis kids are literally, skeletons with those, with the big heads and the big pot bellies and all that. I'm like, what are you people doing? What are you're marching every day for Palestine? Not a single protest for these kids. Not a single aid. Not a single person screaming, "Where are the aid trucks?" Hell, even Bob Geldof held a goddamn concert for the Ethiopians. Nothing for the Yemenis. It's sickening. It's sickening. The priorities of these people is unbelievably bad. And because it's nefarious, that's why I know it's nefarious. It's not a genuine thing. It's because Jews, I swear to God, I was literally talking to someone. I said, here's a plan. We'll send a single Israeli soldier to kill some Yemenis. Immediately they'll be fed. Those kids will just immediately get trucks and planes pouring aid upon them because a Jew happened to kill them instead of another Muslim. But you can have Muslims kill thousands of children and starve them day after day. No one gives a crap. But get a Jew to kill them. Oh, now hell's we have to march every day. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I don't know, man. Sometimes it's very frustrating and it's very saddening because I go out every Saturday and I record these marches. And I mean, like last week, I'd say off the top of my head, like 40, 50,000 people were there. That's a lot of people that support this cause, which I don't think is really justified for them compared to the other atrocities that are happening in the world. But here we are in this country where we got Green Party politicians screaming, "This is for Palestine." Green Party, what the fudge are you doing? You're supposed to worry about the whales and climate and net zero and shit. What's Palestine got to do with it?
It's worrying that kind of sectarianism's crept into our politics so quickly as well.
Yeah.
And over this, where it's quite clearly an anti-Semitic thing. I'm not for Israel. I'm not like, oh yeah, they're blameless and.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They're saints. Absolutely not. But equally, it's like you can't fucking go into someone's country, kill 1,400 people, commit a load of grape, and murder, and think, that's fine. That's resistance. It's like, no, you're going to get some pushback.
This is what it's crazy that they go, oh, this is resistance. They have the right to resist. I'm like, last time I remember, Nelson Mandela wasn't graping his way through South African, Boers in order to get his apartheid, lifted. I don't remember the real. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of resistance movements who have done horrible things, but anyone who's worth their salt hasn't, considered graping and murdering little girls and keeping babies as hostages.
I actually knew one of those guys. I knew someone who was in prison with Nelson Mandela. He was one of our neighbors.
Oh my God.
He wrote a book called Freedom in Our Time. He was called Zola Zembe. And he was a general in the RK, which was the military wing of the ANC. Lovely guy.
Excellent. So how long did you know him?
Oh, it was when I was a kid, growing up.
Okay.
He's dead now. But yeah, he was part of like union movements in Manchester and stuff, and he thought that they were all sort of pussies,
Yeah, because someone who actually comes from actual oppression notices very quickly.
Doing something,
This is what I mean. When I see other people who came from real oppressed countries or real, fought for their freedoms or did something, and they look at these Europeans and Greta Thunbergs and all, and you think, oh my God, this is the best quality of protester that we can find in Europe because we're all so well fed and looked after. This is the crime of, in a weird way, I've said this, the crime of the great generations, the ones from the World War II and all the famines and all the other things. Their crime was that they did their job so well that the rest of us have been so well secure and fed and looked after that we've forgotten how horrible the world can be, how terrible things can be. And so we're essentially, I mean, come on, people are running around crying because someone misgendered them. You mean if you go to any part of the world, go to Yemen and say to someone, I'm really feeling down today because someone didn't call me a Z or a Zer. They will beat the shit. They will slap you.
After they've stopped laughing, yeah.
I mean, if that is the biggest problem in your life, you have no problems.
If that's your problem, there are no problems.
You have no problems. This is what they say about first world problems, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. My friend Oliver, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. I don't know if you want to keep going, but we are at the hour and a half mark, so I didn't want to keep you too long, and I know it's late at night as well. It's 10, so you probably have to get up. Is there anything you want to discuss, anything you want to promote, or anything you want to talk about? Any books, any channels, anything? Because I know you have a beautiful mic there, so it looks like you do some online stuff, right?
No, I don't actually do anything online.
Really?
I don't have a channel, don't have a YouTube thing.
That is an impressive show, right? That's Joe Rogan, Mike. I recognize quality.
only the best for Oliver.
Yeah. You for someone. So literally, you just jump on panels from time to time and you chat.
Yeah. I got this because it was during lockdown. And I quite like the tech and stuff. So
I see.
you couldn't go and meet anyone, so it was all sort of online meetings and stuff.
Oh, I'm with you. So this was all mostly for work purposes then.
Yeah, coming straight at you in 1080p.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you got quality gear there for someone who I'd expected you to have some major channel running. Doing some kind of influencer.
No. Barely influenced my own life.
Well, you've influenced me to try to sit at the side of the road and watch my brain go by.
It's so easy.
I'm trying. I will try some more. I haven't tried enough, but I definitely, because I know this meditation thing is good. It's good for you, like long term. And I'm suffering a lot from multiple screens all the time. I find myself, I think, easily 10, 12 hours a day looking at a screen easily. I mean, that's just, I think, without a second thought. So I have to cut down on the screen time. How do you actually avoid? That's what I mean. How do you get around the whole screen time thing? Do you just shut it down and just ignore it all?
Yeah, you just turn it off and you just sit quietly for half an hour. You'd find a time in the well. I do mine first thing in the morning and then last thing at night before I go to bed. So everything's off before I start, and then I turn everything off before I start. If you know what I mean.
Interesting.
So in the morning, I don't turn anything on before I do it.
Okay.
And then at night, it's the other way around.
Nice. Let me, for the audience out there and anyone who wants to participate, could you give us a small rundown of your what time you get up in the morning, meditate, etc. So is there a small sort of list of things, good habits to initiate?
Well, just get up half an hour earlier than you're getting up now. Go for a piss and then go meditate for half an hour.
I was expecting some kind of deep Buddhistic.
No, it's not. It's simple. Honestly, it's so simple.
Okay, get up half an hour before.
There's never a time where I thought, that didn't do me any good.
Okay. How about because I've heard that there's a lot of people who talk about the 5 a.m. people. Like those who get up at 5 a.m. seem to get a lot done in the day before they go to bed. Are you a 5 a.m. kind of guy, or what is your earliest?
Yeah, I'm more of a 5 a.m. kind of guy. But
okay,
the people who are getting up at 11, they're up till 3 and 4. So I always think.
So it's better
they're getting everything done while I'm asleep.
Well, yeah, but I mean, obviously, while you're getting everything done, they're asleep. So, is it better to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to bed? I guess we're 10:30 now, so it's probably past your bedtime.
Awake, you're awake. Yeah, when you're awake, you're awake. When you're asleep, you're asleep.
There is there's no time like get up at 5, sleep at 10.
There's no secret time to get up. to become enlightened. No.
You literally have
Sorry.
no rules. You have no. I'm trying to like really nail you down here with some routines, but you literally are truly like there are no real hard and fast rules. Just do it whenever you can. Interesting. I find it. It's really hard for me. It's really hard for me because I want to have like a pattern and do this pattern every day, get used to it, and then just stick with it. But if there are no rules, we're just chaos. How do you keep from chaos?
You have to embrace the chaos. You are the chaos.
Oh
Sorry, Banksy.
God, you and your.
Who's asking anyway?
Who's asking? I don't know. I guess I'm asking because I find, as I said again, it's just in my head. If there are no rules, if there are no set patterns, then anything goes. And if anything goes, then how do I know I'm doing the right thing? Oh, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. You can't just leave me hanging. Tell me, Guru, Sufi, Sifu, Sensei, guide me.
Well, I think Francis Rule and Damana here in the chat, so you can have a chat with them. They'll probably have you some answers.
Yeah, I don't know. I know most of the people in here. They're worse than me. They follow me. What do you expect? They're listening to my crap. I'm not sure I can take advice. But yeah. Okay, Oliver, is there anything else you'd like to say? Your final thoughts?
Thank you very much for having me on, but I don't know why you called me a philosopher.
I still consider you more of a philosopher than me. You actually have a degree in it. So on that level, I'm still saying yes. And in fact, the answers you gave about everything is very philosophical and very, very vague. There's nothing pinned down whatsoever. So
Good. Great.
Either that or a politician.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Let's. I don't know if you're around on Sunday. Hopefully, I'll get there and maybe we can have a chat in the park. Hopefully, it'll be nice weather.
You're in the park again.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful evening. Take care. Ciao. I'm going to wrap it up with the audience. Okay, and there goes Oliver. Thank you, everyone, for having. Spending some time with me. Oliver is a gentleman I met at the park. He's also, in these YouTube streams. He's clearly, he's talked to Jordan M. He's gone to the Darwa channels. So I'm sure you'll see more of Oliver. I definitely want to get him on the channel again, and we'll chat at the park as well. But for now, thank you everyone for coming. I'm sorry I didn't get really a lot of time to address the people in the chat, but I've seen you guys, the man, Francis, Skyworks, Miss Banksy, CCD, Chaotic Truth, Midlife Bro Logic or Barnabas. Who else have I got? Shout out to everyone. Shout out to everyone that came in. Oh my God, I'm scrolling, but I'll be honest, there's just so many people now. Suvi, James. Who else? Did I miss anyone? I think I must have missed someone. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. But thank you guys. Thank you for coming. You guys have been awesome. Have yourselves a wonderful evening and a great weekend if I don't see you. Trying to catch me on Hafiz Reflects on Saturdays and Sundays. I'll be out in the streets. I don't know about this Saturday. I've got some things on Saturday. If I can make it, I'll make it. If not, most definitely Sunday. Catch me over at Hafiz Reflects. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe down here. Comment about anything you want. If I manage to get some of your questions, I hope so. If not, then maybe next time we can do a Q&A with Oliver about philosophy and things of that nature. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Peace. We're going to play us out with as usual, my favorite Wiccan? Are they Wiccan? I think they were Wiccan. Our favorite police officer, PC Barnes from Speaker's Corner. He has his band, Children of the Sun, Willow Wolf, and his album Children of the Sun, and this one is going to be Forests, because I love this song. It's Forests Are Green.
Forests of green, many sea.
Sorry, everyone. Just a quick announcement. The results of the poll is that Jesus is king, apparently. That's right. Jesus won at 46%. Jesus is indeed king. Peace.
By his eyes, he cannot see. Forests I've seen, the man of green with my eyes I have seen. Remember what's told by the ancients of old. They made a wish for the good of us all. Light a candle in tune by the phase of the moon and make a wish for us all.
Spiral of magic, circle of life that's always been and always will. Turning and turning, the wheel keeps on turning around forevermore. Remember what's told by the ancients of old. They made a wish for the good of us all. Light a candle in tune by the phase of the moon. Make your wish for us all.
Forests are green, man is seen by his eyes, he cannot see. Forests I've seen, the man of green with my eyes I have seen. Remember what's told by the ancients of old. They made a wish for the good of us all. Light a candle in tune by the phase of the moon and make your wish for us all. Make your wish for us all.